Good day, guys. This is Rusty number 5 speaking, and I'm here with ttte Reviews to do a very special top 10 list.
A top 10 list? Have you joined the Turk side of Watch Mojo?
Apparently I have. Today, we'll be doing the top 10 worst Thomas episodes.
Actually, you know what? I think that list has potential. Let's do it.
And of course, this is all the opinion of me and ttte Reviews, so you don't have to agree with all of them. I feel like some of the episodes on here not everyone is gonna agree with, such as Emily's Rubbish, which we'll be talking about in a minute. Anyways, time to begin the countdown.
Big Cheese hungry! Get back!
Emily's Rubbish. Emily meets Whiff in this episode, who is quite the one with garbage. Eventually, Emily and Whiff set off. They meet James, Gordon, and Henry, who are all teasing Emily due to the fact that she's working with Whiff. The reasoning behind the engines making fun of Emily is quite unnecessary. It's not like she wanted to do that job, but Emily is a bit of an idiot herself in this episode, so I won't go too far with that complaint. Quick side note, I actually had no idea Whiff appeared in the model series, in which I don't remember seeing this episode as a kid. After being teased by more engines, and for some reason that's how they're gonna use Molly, Neville, and Murdoch, Emily decides she wants to get away from Whiff, and starts running for her life. Emily's a bit of a jerk in this episode, and doesn't care at all about Whiff. But it's at the top of the list for 2 reasons. 1, Emily apologizes to Whiff at the end, and 2, some people do like this episode, so putting it any lower would cause a pitchfork raid. Also, at least Edward isn't in this episode.
Big Cheese hungry! Get back!
Silly Billy. Stop telling me what to do, Thomas. You are a very bossy engine is the words that I'm going to be hearing in my dreams tonight. This episode is very annoying. Michael Brandon's Billy voice is just no.
Stop telling me what to do, Thomas, huffed Billy. You are a very bossy engine.
And even without his voice, Billy is already a very annoying character. I think that some of the reasons that the Hit Era episodes fail is because a lot of them introduce new characters that are very uninteresting. Not to mention annoying. But anyway, if the character that's being introduced isn't engaging, then the episode won't be engaging either as a result of it. Boring character, boring episode. Actually, let me rephrase that. I should really be saying annoying character, annoying episode.
Stop telling me what to do.
Big Cheese hungry! Get back!
Thomas and the New Engine. This episode introduces the character Neville, who Thomas meets at the yard. And it's yet another episode that does the ever so bad Thomas dislikes the new character trope. Ari and Bert are teasing Neville, and this is where Thomas arrives. He notices Ari and Bert laughing with Neville nearby, and with absolutely no other evidence besides the fact Neville was near them, Thomas jumps to conclusions and assumes that Neville is friends with the Diesels. And of course, Thomas tells James, who tells Edward, who, being extremely out of character, tells Percy, who tells Emily. Later, Thomas finds out that Neville is pulling Ganny and Clarabelle.
Hello?
Thomas tells Neville because with that oh-so-stupid information he thinks is true, tells Neville that he doesn't want to talk to him. Emily arrives.
Hello?
And also doesn't want to talk to Neville. The only part I liked about this episode is that Thomas does realize he jumped to conclusions at the end, and rescues Neville from a broken bridge. Overall, this episode felt more like kids in elementary school spreading a rumor around that a boy kissed a girl in the school cafeteria more than a Thomas episode.
Big Cheese hungry! Get
forever and ever. The episode that was written as a quote-unquote response to angry fans mad about the changes Bwubba gave the show. This episode takes place after both A Shed for Edward and the Bwubba movie. Gordon is upset about the changes made to Sodor, specifically Edward and Henry moving out. Eventually, he has a huge mental breakdown about this.
Why don't you just go ahead and change everything? Shall I push my coaches from now on instead of pulling them, sir? Gordon! Come on, Annie Clarabelle! Let me take you on Thomas's branch line for a change. The Fat Controller is changing everything.
Sir Topham Hatt sends him back to the sheds. At the sheds, he has a dream about Sodor becoming very silly. Nia ends up teaching Gordon about change. This episode was practically written telling the fans, hey, we made a change to the show. Accept it now!
Bitchy's hungry! Get back!
Wonky Whistle. This episode has already been reviewed by everyone in the fandom at this point, so I won't spend too much time on it. This episode is mainly known for Thomas not listening to anyone, and frankly not caring. His wonky whistle will definitely get more annoying to the ears as the episode continues, and it's very lacking of logic in some areas. And of course, Thomas hardly gets punished for any of what he does. Search up Wonky Whistle on YouTube if you want to see a proper review of this episode. I recommend Skarloey Railway 01, aka the Engine Inspector's review on it.
Bitchy's hungry! Get back!
Up and away. Honestly, don't have much to say about this episode. It's just, well, stupid. Everything about this episode's just so stupid. Why did they blow up the balloon at the docks instead of the fair? Why did they transport it by train? And how, just how, did Mr. Bubbles blow up a helium balloon? So yeah, stupid concept, stupid episode.
Bitchy's hungry! Get back!
Middle engine. Ari and Bert joke around with Percy, who became the middle engine, which means he got stuck in between trucks. Later, Henry arrives. Henry bumps into Percy, which sends him into the loading ramp. And this is where the episode gets bad. Once Percy's off the loading ramp, the manager gets mad at Percy and tells Sir Topham Hatt about the incident. Sir Topham Hatt is also mad at Percy. Percy tries to explain that Ari and Bert made him a middle engine, but Sir Topham Hatt still gives Percy a punishment. I'm sorry, but you can't just punish Percy if it's not certain that he purposely did that. And what makes this episode even worse is that Ari and Bert don't get punished for what they did.
Bitchy's hungry! Get back!
A Shed for Edward. This episode, along with the fastest red engine on Sodor, started the series of events that changed the show for the worse. So of course it's not a good one. It mistreats Edward, and we get a stupid pair-up with Philip. Edward stays with Philip, who, being extremely annoying, forces Edward to find a new location to sleep. It's an episode worthy of getting the fandom mad. It was made to get the show ready for Bwubba, and it fails miserably. Once Timoth Sheds are fully repaired, Edward decides not to return to Timoth Sheds, but instead to stay with Philip for the rest of time. A terrible episode that poorly writes out Edward.
I wonder who will be joining us here at Tidmouth Sheds.
Well, we'll just have to wait and see.
But that's a story for another day.
Bitchy's hungry! Get back!
Edward strikes out. The era of Thomas and Friends, when it comes to character personalities, can be very inconsistent. Emily is depicted as bossy, sometimes she's not. Henry is depicted as worrisome, sometimes he's not. The list goes on. But if there's one thing they cannot do, it is to make a wise/kind engine act mean. And fortunately for us, that is the premise of this episode. This episode stars Edward, who is one of my favorite characters, and anyway, when a new breakdown train named Rocky arrives on the island of Sodor, he is mean to him just because he is new, and that ends up backfiring when Rocky ends up rescuing him. No, that story is just wrong. That is not Edward's persona at all. The hate for this episode could have been avoided if the writing team used James, not Edward. This episode has an okay concept, but the character choices absolutely ruin it.
And now, time for some quick honorable mentions, plus dishonorable mentions, before we get to number 1. Thomas's Train. This episode is only truly bad by classic series standards. Emily's best friend. God, that fantasy sequence. The fastest red engine on Sodor. The episode that changed the show for the worse. Fiery Flynn.
His firebox was on
Season 25.
Rusty, I think we all know how bad Season 25 is. Let's not even discuss it.
Good point. Rosie is red. Wanna see DeviantArt's dream come true? Well then, watch this episode. Marvelous Machinery. There really wasn't another choice for this one. It's the most unrealistic and disrespectful episode of the entire show. In it, there's a giant technology fair happening on Sodor, which screws up everything we've come to know in Thomas. Starring robots and flying cars, specifically to compete with Paw Patrol and merchandise selling. Represents a lot about the current state of the show. The character Roof brings all these cursed inventions onto Sodor and his bad plans for the railway. This episode is also sad because it shows Thomas is easily in its worst state right now, and as long as Mattel is in charge, they will keep making these terrible episodes trying to compete with the competition. Because instead of having Thomas stand out from the competition like it used to, Mattel is doing everything they can to make sure the merchandise and show can compete with the new Paw Patrol rescue vehicle set at your local Walmart. It's obvious through Season 25, aka All Engines Go. Even Chuggington is more tolerable to watch than this whole special, and that's really saying something. So yeah, in my opinion, this is easily the worst Thomas episode ever made. But luckily, we have fan content, which has improved a lot over the last few years. And it's much better we support that over a corporate company that doesn't get the legacy of a franchise in the slightest. Anyways, that's all for this video. I really hope you enjoyed it, as I put a lot of effort into it. And special thanks to ttte Reviews for appearing it in as well. And if you'd like to see a best Thomas episodes list, let me know. Are you done yet? Welp, gotta go. Watch Mojo has 4 million other lists they need completed by the end of tomorrow. Hey, you're taking too long with this list. That's it. You're fired. Wait, what? Come on, get out. Ah, come on.
Anyways, this is ttte Reviews and Rusty number 5 signing out, and as Rusty would say, rust out.